Hi friends, in this video we will see how to implement the dynamic filtering in RESTful services. Okay, so before this we need to first understand what is the requirement of this and what problem we face while building the RESTful services. Okay, so let's understand first. So here I have created one simple Spring Boot application which containing one model class. In this model class I have added some field, ID, name, phone number, address, city and salary, and its getter and setter. And here one controller, user controller, which contains this some endpoints, user endpoints which returns the information of single user. Next endpoint is user list, which returns the list of users. And next is user name and phone number, which returns the user's name and phone number only. And next user ID and salary. Okay, so when you call these endpoints you get the user ID and salary. So first let's test one by one. Okay, so open the browser, localhost, and call user. Okay, when I call the user API, so I get the single user information where I get ID, name, phone number, address, city and salary. So it's okay. Next, call user list. Okay, user list. When I call the user list, so I get the list of users, users 1, user 2. Okay, now call user name and phone, something like what is the name of endpoint, name and phone. Okay, so call this endpoint now. Okay, when you call these endpoints, so you get the user name and phone, user name and phone. Oops, why I'm getting this extra field, address, city, salary, ID? My expectation is when I call these endpoints, so I want only name and phone. Why this extra field coming in this response payload? I don't want this extra field in my response payload. Okay, so let's try next one, user ID and salary, localhost 8080, ID and salary. Okay, so ID and salary, again I get these extra fields which I don't want. Let's suppose I am a UI developer. Okay, so my requirement is when I call this API, I want only ID and salary in my response payload. Okay, in my JSON object I want only ID and salary. I don't want these extra fields. Okay, so how you can handle this? So worst programming programming style to handle this is like you create this separate bin for each. Means for here I want to return the user name and phone, so I create the one bin or a model class where I take the two variable name and phone and return from here. Okay, for example, if I take the one model class, create one model class, for example user 2, where I take two variable, what, name and phone. Okay, and here I create the object of user 2. Okay, and add only two variable name and phone and return. Okay, so this is the worst programming, and so don't do this. Okay, so how we can do this? So we can do this by using filtering. Okay, create the one method, public, and the return type method is MappingJacksonValue. Okay, get name and city. Okay, I want name and city, so get name and city. Okay, so this is something method name, and map it get mapping, get mapping, and here name city. This is the endpoint name. Okay, so return type of our method is MappingJacksonValue. Okay, so let's first create the object of our bin. User is my bin, or you can say it's model class. So user equal to new user, and in this I set user.set name Rahul, user.set city you can set one more field. Okay, set what you want. I want to set salary, for example. I set salary also. This is salary something. Okay, so you added 3 fields here: name, city and salary. But when you call this endpoint, the end people or UI people want only name and city. Okay, so let's create the object of now simple property filter. Let's create the filter now. This is our filter is equal to new simple bin to filter, and what you want to, okay, sorry, this is a static class, so simple call static method filter out all except what you want name and city only, so pass field name only, name and city, these fields I want. Okay, so I have created one filter. Okay, and I told to this filter was filter out except name and city. Okay, so now let's create the object of filter provider. Okay, filter provider is it to new simple filter provider is a new simple filter provider dot add filter. Now add your filter here. I add, this is my filter and I add my filter object here. Now the question is on which model class this filter applies. So type here model class. So type here any name, for example my bin. How it relate I will tell you later. Okay, give any name. I pass my name. Okay, and I pass the object of filter. Right. Now let's create the object of MappingJacksonValue. MappingJacksonValue is equal to new MappingJacksonValue and pass bin here, my bin. Which bin you want to return? My bin. So pass my bin. Sorry, my bin, my mistake here. What you want to pass user object. Okay, and now Jackson value. Okay, on this user object. Okay, this mapping Jackson value, this object contains the user. Okay, user object. So I want to add this set filter and apply filter here, filter provider. Okay, now let's return this, return Jackson value. Okay, now what is this my bin name pass? So copy this, go to your model class, come here, and here you need to specify this is the my bin or whatever you want. There is the property. Okay, so JSON filter, add the JSON filter. Okay, and this is my filter, my bin. Okay, so I annotated user class with JSON filter and pass my bin. Now come to the user controller. Now understand this code. First I create the object of simple bin filter and pass the fields which I want in this method. After that I create the object of filter provider and filter provider. In that filter provider I pass the object of filter, means this simple property bin filter, and my bin, means this filter on which model I want this filter. So I told to this method, this filter I want in my bin class. And what is my bin? My bin is this. Okay, after that I create the object of MappingJacksonValue, and in this MappingJacksonValue what object I want to return? User object. So pass the user object here, and finally I have created one filter. That filter I set into this, means when I return this, so from this user object this filter is applied on this user object and we will get only name and city. Okay, let's check. Okay, when I call this API, my expectation is I want to name and city, so just hit okay, name and city. What happened? Name and city, just add a slash here. Okay, stop your application, restart it, because I am not added the dev tool, so that's why I need to restart it. Okay, so application is up and running. Now call the method. Okay, here when you call this API you get only name and city. Okay, your user object contains the ID, name, phone number, address, salary, everything, but when you return when you call this method you get the name and city only. Okay, so for such a requirement you can use the dynamic filtering. Okay, if some UI people came to you and he told that, boss, I want some REST API in which I want name, phone number and city only, I don't want other fields, so in that case you can use this dynamic filtering. Okay, suppose you can create one more method, okay, where you want some 2-3 fields. Okay, for example here I create one more city, name, city and ID, for example. Okay, I want name, city and ID, or salary, say salary. Okay,